Hello and welcome back to another video. If you hear anything in the background, that's my fan going on. So, this one is going to be a bit of speculation based on experience and my own development work. And this one is going to be what it would actually take to fix New Gundam Breaker. So, first off, we've got to understand that this would not be just a small feat. This would require a lot of assets. It would require the coders to come back from whatever they're working on, if they're still working on this project or whether they've moved on to another one. It would require an entirely new test team, and it would require Bandai to listen to feedback a lot more closely. So we're looking at more or less 3 different teams. One actively seeks out fan feedback, so we could call that maybe, I don't know, the fan team. You've got the test team, and you have the dev team. Now, what you want to do is have communication between all of them, that's obvious. And that is the only way that you can implement these fixes well. And mainly, the communication would be going from the fans and the test team to the devs. Now, depending on how smoothly this goes, depends on how bogged down the devs are with other things. And also, how quickly they want to respond. Because, as you can understand, if you are just throwing a lot of requests at a dev, they're going to prioritize the ones that they consider to be the most awkward and most game-breaking first. So you don't want a load of people saying, oh, I want different colour schemes and I want these parts and things, when clearly it's the core gameplay that needs to be fixed. So, then begs the question, okay, so what are the test team doing? Because a lot of people in various other video games releases have said, you know, what were the test teams doing? What was going on? You know, did anyone actually test these games? And yeah, I can confidently say that every single game has to go through a testing procedure before it goes out the door. The question is how rigorous it is, how much money the game is going to make back as to how many assets you want to be able to assign to it, whether it's within budget. So it's a lot of things that come into the background that really play around with how quickly things get fixed, the priority of things, and whether or not things even get found. You know, like for instance, you can say, oh, plenty of fans found these errors, but if they find other stuff themselves along the way that can cause even more issues from the test team, then those are going to need to be addressed as well. So you've got to consider not just the fan stuff, but the stuff that the test team can find as well. Then, of course, because we're talking about 3 different consoles here, we're talking about the normal PS4, the PS4 Pro, and the PC. Not only do you need to have optimization on the PC and the netcode to be able to run it perfectly, and also to be able to put up on Steam, hopefully with support in some way, shape or form going forwards, which will probably either be through the workshop or DLC. You've also got to understand that the optimization for the PS4 Pro version has to be done compared to the PS4 version, so obviously it needs to outperform the standard one. So for instance, if the 2 versions are working worse on the PS4 Pro than the PS4 currently, if anyone's actually seen that, that's not good. So all of this optimization and other stuff needs to be taken into consideration. Then of course you've got the baseline game, where it's made in Unreal Engine 4, which is an engine that's been ported to multiple different platforms now, but it depends on how well the developers know the engine and how used to the engine they are. Like, you'll see a lot of games are made using a combination of various different scripts. A lot of programmers will know things like C++, C++, Java, C#. A lot of these things, especially when it was Unreal Engine 3, got merged together. So Unreal Engine Script, which is what they were using at the time, was a mixture between Java and C++, and it was a really weird amalgamation of content. But a lot of people made some really good games with it by having really good coders. Now the thing is, because I don't know much about Gundam Breaker, because I'm going to be getting 3 really soon, I'll be able to make comparisons between 3's basic gameplay and Unreal Engine, because Unreal Engine has some really key things that make it stand out from other engines, so you can easily identify, yes, that was made on Unreal Engine. It tends to be stuff to do with like the particles, the gameplay, the visuals. All these can be tweaked in some way or shape, but there's always that signature look. That's why a lot of Unreal Engine 3 games look a little bit similar to Gears of War. So, basically, it comes down to how, at the end, it comes down to how knowledgeable the programmers are, whether they've used Unreal Engine 4 before, and if they've not, say, like, for instance, my speculation was that before this, the dev team working on Gundam Breaker had their own engine which they used and built up over the series. That would make sense. A lot of other games companies do this, unless you want to rush build something, or unless you want to not spend so many years building an engine to accommodate you and you just want to learn somebody else's engine. That's when you get something like Unreal Engine. And a lot of other indies use it as well because of the way that it's flexible and it's easily available on the market at the moment. So, with all these things in mind, if you have to rush something that you're not familiar with, of course it's going to break. Like, for instance, if I decided I'm going to go into programming properly and I know next to nothing about programming, I did a little bit ages ago, but it was like basic programming. If I knew nothing about it and then went in and tried to do programming, obviously it would take me a long time, and during that time I wouldn't be able to optimize anything. There'd be mistakes along the way, and there would be a ton of problems as a result. And I think that's what we're seeing with New Gundam Breaker, is a team that is unfamiliar with their engine, and as a result has a lot of problems with optimization and other things. It's not an easy fix, especially if they need to overhaul the combat and everything else. That's going to be a long-term fix that they're going to have to work on, because Unreal Engine 4 uses a mixture of blueprints, which is like visual coding, and also C++. So, whether it's hard-coded through C++ or whether it's easily changeable through blueprints, which are very, very nice as a addition to Unreal Engine and make things a lot easier to tweak. If it's done through blueprints, it's fine, it's easy. You can write comments in here and there and remember how to do things, even if you've not touched the code in ages. Whereas with C++, obviously it's a lot harder to learn, and then you have to go back in, find and isolate individual lines of code and tweak those. It's going to take a lot more than people expect in terms of time and effort to fix this thing. And with all of these assets needing to work together in harmony in terms of test team, dev team, and fan team together, keeping an eye on the fan feedback and making sure everything goes smoothly and that the fans are liking what's going on and the fixes are properly put through so that the fans can enjoy it. If that's fine, then it's all good. You have a smooth development cycle where you can keep putting out patches and patches and it'll improve the game. Whereas if the fans are seeing a lot more negative things happen to the game, then obviously that's it's like an uphill struggle that you have to fight, and it's a very hard one to deal with. Anyway, I hope this has given you a little bit of insight into what they might need to do with New Gundam Breaker, and until next time, see ya!